Hey everybody, it wasn't my intention to be making another video surrounding this dude anytime soon, but he's back at it again defending the problems in the games industry while pinning the blame on the people either talking about these problems or being upset about the problems being there in the first place. I'm going to try to once again reach out to this dude, and in the simplest way that I possibly can. No tweets, no salt, just a dialogue. So first, we have to go over where this tweet came from, where the Act-Man said that video game discourse has really turned to dog shit, and we all know where it's coming from. In response to this tweet from Synth Potato, saying that more gaming accounts, so like the account from Assassin's Creed, need to start ratioing people like Crumbs and all those other grifters, because the sooner this entire community is ostracized, the better. So basically the Act-Man is saying that it is our fault, that video game discourse has become the way that it has become, and this was all in response to the Assassin's Creed Twitter account ratioing Elon Musk and Grumps with two quick but effective jabs against them and their embarrassing baggage in this industry. Grumps' being his unreleased game, Ember, and Elon's being his, the whole drama about him faking to be a Path of Exile 2 ultra pro gamer. We'll get back to this matter later in this video, but for now let's continue with these two deluded fellas living in a fantasy land where they genuinely believe that the discourse in gaming spaces truly has gone down to what it is right now because of people like Crumbs and others lying to people, swindling people, making things up, and overall just generating all of this hatred and toxicity online. My point can be summarized by what I responded with, which was good luck getting rid of it, meaning the current state of the gaming discourse, until the actual core of the issue gets addressed. Both of you are living in La La Land if you genuinely believe that this is a problem born of grifters, rather than the actual source that created the demand for these channels in the first place. But of course, there's much more to it, so if you'd like to listen, then stick around. We'll have a nice chill video going over it. If in the meantime you find yourself enjoying the video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to help the channel out. Let's get into it. So, a bit of context first as to who I am and what was that I was doing before starting to make videos in September. Firstly, I didn't even know of Grumps or any of these other personalities and channels that I've recently gotten acquainted with, and I honestly don't even think that Grumps is that important to what we do or to the core of the movement itself. In one video of mine, as a response to the aristocratic utensil, I defended him based on his activity on X, which basically comes down to sharing news, pointing out stupid things in the industry, and making inflammatory comments, memes, comparisons, etc. And that's really about it. I don't really see the issue with it, and it can actually be very useful as sometimes he shares good information or signal boosts good information from other people. But in truth, I don't really know much about Grumps at all. I don't even know the full lore behind Ember, his game that he hasn't released. And this is because I don't care, and again, I don't find it important or relevant. All I care about is the information. If the information is good, then let's have it. If not, then that's that. And some people online, they try to do ad hominem attacks in order to smear people who basically have opposing views to their own, rather than tackle the argument itself. So often, instead of just trying to talk about some of these matters, they just look at a symbol like Crumbs, and they try to take it down, as if by being able to get a ratio on him somehow lends them some kind of victory in the matter at hand, which in this case is the disgraceful state of Assassin's Creed Shadows. But anyway, let's get back to the point. Before September, I didn't even have an account on X. I used to have one when it was still called Twitter, but I ended up nuking it because I found the site to be a cesspit. And I still think the site is quite a bit of a cesspit, to be honest. I think social media is very unhealthy. But since YouTube removed the messaging feature, X is really the only place where I can make myself available to receive messages from other creators trying to reach out, or if I ever get lucky enough to score a sponsorship or something like that. Before this though, I was just some dude, slowly but surely getting sick and tired of the hypocrisy, the ridiculousness, and the forcefulness of the left in media and society. And I say this as someone who has always considered myself to be on the left. Like I've always seen myself as a regular left-leaning person who merely didn't follow along with the societal lunacy pushing us all further and further to extremes that just plain and simple did not make sense to me. Basically, I figuratively just hopped off the train as it kept heading towards a cliff. And even though some people would love to just paint me as yet another grifter, just one more in the long list, I still see myself as the exact same person. I'm still the same regular dude as I was, with the same positions that I had. It's just that things have been pushed so far towards the far left, I suppose is what this is, that for people like me, we are now just considered to be center-right or straight-up right just because we are moderate people with very normal lukewarm views that simply do not edge towards one extreme or the other. As an example of this in the gaming space, you got, for example, this guy, Marek Tymiński. I made a video on what happened to him and his developers getting kicked out of their own game subreddit because of merely announcing that they would no longer be employing DEI elements in their games, as well as setting up various polls for people to vote on their preferences, one of which was, would people rather have the gender in the character creator to be named body type A and B, or male or female, or if they didn't care. There was also an option for you to vote I don't care in case you believed that this is not really an important issue. And regardless, the vast majority voted male and female. This kind of thing has made people, and by people, well, you know the type of people that I mean, to look at the studio and especially at the main man himself, Marek Tymiński, as someone on the alt-right. Merely because of this. Merely because of putting up a poll for people to democratically vote on what it is that they prefer. And the items that they were voting for to being some of the most normal, most inoffensive things that you could ever possibly come up with. Seriously, this is easier and less controversial than choosing what you want for dinner. And in the case of not wanting to put in DEI in their video games, in other words, a decision or action committing towards being non-political or at least politically neutral by not employing these elements in their business and in their products is seen as an inexcusable far-right decision. This alone is already more damaging to the video game discourse within the industry than anything that Grums or anyone else could ever post. And this is a sentiment shared by a lot of people within the industry, because we have seen crash outs from developers for far less than this. And most importantly, this is not a byproduct of any of us. This is not a and when I say us, by the way, throughout this video, I am in no way, shape or form considering myself as one of the people that all of these people usually talk about, because I know that I am very small. I started in September. I'm still a small fish in a big pond. I know that whenever they refer to these grifters, like Grums and company, I know that nobody's thinking about me. But I know that it's a numbers game, basically. According to their ideology, even though I am not a extremist, they would throw me into the same box because I share views that they are irrationally angry against. I did catch the attention of Zanderhall once though, and he pretty much called me a Austrian painter, so, I know where these people's heads are at. The point is that this shows you just how deluded these people are, and by extension, the reality that we are living in. In truth, a far-right decision when it comes to the DEI thing would basically be to literally take it and flip it. Basically take everything that we see in games that are influenced by this ideology and turn it around. So instead of diversity and inclusion directly targeting white people, including in settings where it doesn't make any sense, like Lord of the Rings or The Witchers, Northern Realms, etc., it would be the opposite. It would basically be like making a Black Panther movie and the entire cast is white and Africa is filled with Nordic-style buildings and other cultural artifacts. Maybe even some tennis courts or something. No, wait, bike racks. They love riding bikes up there in the north.
With your fucking happy guy looking ass!
And instead of going for overt representation of trans and non-binary characters, including really cringy social type of stuff like we saw in Veilguard, it would be everyone being overtly straight and talking about it. Maybe throwing some religious conservative talking points into it, like the importance of procreation and how sex can only be for that purpose alone. Tattoos and rock music are frowned upon, and etc. Are you cringing yet? I'm going to spare us both this thought exercise and leave it at that, because I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. Leave your own machinations in the comments as to what do you envision this to be like, because to be fair, it's like 2 in the morning right now and I'm kind of just spitballing, but like I said, I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. The right-wing version of DEI would not be to remove it, it would be to use it in the opposite way, pushing right-wing extremes into society, entertainment, etc. What Marek Tymiński is doing is he is staying out of it. He's not using it. That is neutral. It simply simply means that when they're creating a game, they're doing so without concerning themselves with any agenda, be it a left-wing one or a right-wing one. And this incredibly simple concept is completely lost on them. Neutrality is unacceptable. So over time, I was just feeling this fatigue of seeing this stuff and replying to it online, because despite not having X, I did have Facebook. That's where I had my friends and family, so I used that one. And every now and then, some article caked with BS would cross my feed, or some moron would get triggered at me, voicing my opinion on various matters that I immediately got on making videos as soon as I started in September, such as the drama with Black Myth Wukong, the difference between female characters in Western games versus Eastern games, defeminization. And mind you, at that time, people weren't even bringing up First Descendant yet. Posts would merely compare Resident Evil female characters, for example, to characters like Kay Vess from Star Wars Outlaws or Mary Jane from Spider-Man 2, so on and so forth. This one was a major pet peeve of mine, because at the same time that people claimed that there was no agenda purposefully making female characters look worse, they would simultaneously spaz out at a character design like Eve from Stellar Blade, literally proving their own bullshit to be a lie, because here we have a good-looking character that so many morons, and the game's media as well, of course, took such issue with that they would come to blows online. They would resort to insults immediately, calling people gooners, sexists, misogynists, the whole thing. The whole wokey thesaurus. So all of this just to say that I had never seen Grum's tweets because I didn't have Twitter. I don't even think he has a channel. If he has one, if he does, I have no clue even right now. I didn't watch these channels. At most, I watched some movie review channels. I watched, for example, EFAP, and when it comes to these circles, that was about it. I didn't even watch Asmongold that much either. I knew of him, of course, everybody does, but I didn't watch him. The one I actually watched a lot more of was Moist Critical. I would get up in the morning, slap on a Charlie video to listen to in the background while getting dressed to go to work, serve food and coffee for the day, then go home, shower, play some games until bedtime, maybe watch a show on Netflix, maybe watch a video on YouTube, whatever. This idea that it's grifters that are the problem and that are the ones causing this toxic and inflammatory gaming discourse on the internet, a discourse that isn't even just present on the game side of things but also on movies and TV shows, is pure bullshit from people who haven't got a clue about what they're saying or of the real world around them. They live in an echo chamber and refuse to acknowledge that there's good, normal people out there with good, reasonable points and views that merely differ from theirs. And the thing that they hate the most is when those people do their research. All they know how to say then is, but they're grifters. They're making stuff up. They don't stand on business. As we just saw from that fighting cowboy guy who was so insanely uninformed or lying, pick your poison, that you can't even have a debate with someone like that because they live in a delusion. You could take a week off to assemble a portfolio filled with receipts. It would not matter. In fact, you might even get mocked just for bringing receipts in the first place.
Oh, what's this? You needed a whole week just to be able to say that you're a bigot?
And in cases like these, I genuinely don't know what to do. I made a response video. It wasn't even enough to cover his whole video because it was so filled with misinformation, so filled with missing context that it took me 1 hour and 30 minutes just to get through 8 minutes of his video, that it causes fatigue. And maybe that's a tactic of theirs, I don't know, maybe that's the golden strategy. Link to the video in the top comment and the description either way if you want to watch it. And the Act-Man is similar, except in my opinion worse. And better at the same time. It's complicated, because we know he knows about this stuff. We know that he at least knows more than the fighting cowboy, for example. We know that he knows enough that if he wanted to carry on doing research, he would find the rest of the context and information that is necessary for him to understand that this issue is rooted within the industry. It was brought here. It wasn't placed here by us. It was imposed on us. And we know that he wouldn't like it, because when he first found out about Sweet Baby Inc., his own words were that he just threw up in his own mouth or swallowed his own vomit, something like that. Those were his words at realizing that companies out there hire these narrative consultants to bump up their ESG scores and secure better investments. Like, this guy was right there. He was right where he needed to be to keep doing his research and see how far it extends and the different ways that it can impact the industry. The different ways that it can influence content. But then suddenly, one ratio by a meme page and yet another spat with Az from heel versus babyface later, where the act man exposed his own damn stupidity and quite frankly bad faith antics, and the act man just stopped and went silent on the matter. Anytime after that he dips back into this gaming discourse, this side of it at least, it's just to shit on anyone talking shit about these companies or these consultants, these initiatives, these programs, these games, etc. And sometimes he does have a reason to. He called out Andy Pants Gaming, for example. I did the same. Difference is that the act man lumps everyone together in with Andy Pants. Everyone is just like him in his mind, or at least the way that he presents it, and everything is just cooked up by him. None of this actually exists, and none of the fault is ever attributed to the industry and the activists within it. He doesn't even talk about his initial findings anymore, and I genuinely don't get it, because nobody ever said that he had to be extreme in his views. I can understand, for example, disagreeing with the more hardcore people in this space, like for example George Torch. That's someone who I don't even follow at all, and like Crumbs, that's someone that you can't even follow for information alone, because every other post is just genuinely framed in the worst way possible, and in a very anti-gamer kind of way, kind of like one of those out-of-touch politicians trying to relate to gamers in some way or another, or trying to attack the medium of gaming. Back with Split Fiction, for example, he was genuinely making rage bait type of posts where he doesn't care about anything at all. He doesn't even care about how he sounds, how he comes across. He was going off about the game for such stupid reasons that it even made him look like he doesn't even play video games or knows what he's talking about. And worse than that, he was being an asshole towards anyone who was choosing to play the game anyway, just having fun with their friends or their girlfriends or their wives or their kids in co-op. My favorite internet couple, Hypnotic and Smash AT, even played the game together on stream. Sorry about that. They ain't gonna watch this video. Anyway, this behavior from George is wokey behavior. I could 100% understand the act man wanting to call that out and wanting to separate himself from that, but what I don't understand is why he goes to the extreme of equating everyone else in this space, everyone else that's basically associated with what people call Gamergate, to this level of extremism, and his dismissal of normal people out there who are fed up with all of this as well. The viewers. That to me shows disingenuousness, an unwillingness to actually approach these topics honestly and acknowledge what's going on in the industry and be a voice towards making it better. I mean, hell, just look at Sungrand Studios, for example. This guy stays away from nonsensical dramas online, he is eloquent, he approaches these matters with professionalism, he barely even swears. I don't think I've ever heard him say a single cuss word once. One look at this guy and any of his other videos where he's just talking about life is more than enough to show anyone that this isn't some ultra chud bigot or whatever, just a guy who works in the industry and who wants to make it better, who sees the sources of these issues and who understands that until these issues are addressed, until this industry tackles the true source of all of this, until the poison of politics and activism is sucked out of the AAA space, we will not see an end to the toxic discourse online, and we will also not see an end to the massive amount of layoffs, restructurings, and shutdowns that we have been seeing. If there's one guy that deserved to benefit from the Asmongold effect, this was the guy. This toxic discourse online is a product of bringing toxic, contemporary, and extremely divisive politics into the space, just as it was brought on first towards TV shows and movies through Disney, for example, as we can see with what happened with Marvel and Star Wars, among other Disney properties that, after they dove headfirst into these ideologies that are set up to divide people, began to flop. And that's because entertainment mediums such as games, movies, and TV shows should never be standardized to be tools for activists to inflict their wills and whims upon society. They should have never been turned into tools for division. They should have never set out to represent any which group of people, especially in very toxic, divisive, contemporary, partisan matters. They shouldn't be there to represent you and your political views, and they shouldn't be there to represent me and my political views. reviews. They should be all about escapism. They should just be the best version of themselves that they can be and garner their audience that way. Do you like Souls-likes and Chinese mythology? Here's Black Myth Wukong. Do you like being a badass hunter, hunting these big beasts with great weapons? Then here you go. It's Monster Hunter Wilds. Whoever you voted for, whatever stance you have on this, that, or the other, shouldn't matter. Mediums like these should remain things that bring people together rather than apart. It is disgusting to see this kind of thing being supported by still so many who don't understand where this leads, societally, or if anything, where it leads in terms of the content itself being produced. Again, one look across to the TV show and movie side of things at Disney and its flop after flop with an ever-decreasing interest throughout the past few years. And it's not superhero fatigue or Star Wars fatigue, as if such a thing could ever exist, Star Wars fatigue, with such an immense fanbase appealing to so many different ages. This is just how the excess media likes to spin it in order to protect the corporation, to get away from admitting that these products have been total shit. If indeed it was superhero fatigue, Deadpool 3 wouldn't have managed to pull in $1.3 billion. What it is a fatigue for what Disney did to Marvel and Star Wars, turning them into slop machines brought about by putting activists in charge of entertainment who want to twist and mangle it into platforms to pass along their message instead of a product made to captivate millions, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, political or financial status, etc., and bring them together through this one common thing. This is the power that entertainment media has always had, to bring people together from all corners of the world, different in so many ways but united in their love for this one thing, whatever it may be, a game, a movie, a show, anime, whatever. The corruption of this one basic concept and the creation of politically driven media is what has changed. It's creating terrible content because, as I always say, activists can't make good content. They're not driven by passion. They're not even driven by passion for the thing that they are working on. They are driven by their agendas, and their agendas are antithetical to entertainment. And the worst part of it is that they aren't even accountable to their own failures. Many of them just end up failing upwards or remaining unaffected. You can look at Disney and Kathleen Kennedy to get an example of this, and you can look at Corinne Bush, the director of Dragon Age Veilguard, landing on their feet at Wizards of the Coast regardless of how much of a failure Veilguard was, while in the meantime many of her colleagues were fired. And you can look at Sweet Baby Inc. as another example. If we didn't raise our voice to protest Sweet Baby Inc., to show these higher-ups in these studios and publishers that we refuse to buy the crap that they influence, then they would still be in business because they get paid to come in, consult, and then they leave. Whether the game that they fucked over gets any sales or not, they already got paid. Whether the studio that hired them succeeds or ends up having to undergo layoffs or maybe even shut down, it didn't matter. They already had their money and they were ready to go and get hired by another company to shove their shit into their game. And at its core, if this doesn't change, then this gaming discourse will remain the same. Crumbs and Elon Musk could get into a fucking rocket ship tomorrow and be launched into the moon with no internet. This would still continue and will continue because people are fed up with it and there will always be new ones speaking against it. You can't take away the problem by simply taking away the people talking about the problem. These channels get views because they resonate with people, with what people see, hear, and feel on a day-to-day basis. And in the games industry specifically, 2024 was just the beginning. This stuff has been infesting Disney and their shows and movies for years now, and before that, it was comics. 2024 was the first year where it was actually overt in the gaming space. And the funniest thing, perhaps the most poetic one of all, is that if the Actman and others like him would actually talk about it and be moderate voices against both the extremism of the left doing the shit that makes him self-admittedly swallow his own vomit, and the extremism of the right with pages like yours legitimately arguing that if your game has women protagonists then it's a problem, or people like Melanie Mack, John De La Rose, and John F. Trent losing their minds because the First Descendants premium skins are an affront to God and should be banned, then there would actually be far less toxic discourse online. Because maybe when people out there who are seeing this kind of shit and who are feeling tired of it, potentially more than that, feeling tired of feeling like they can't even feel tired of it, because anytime that they raise their voice, they get some yo-yo, some putz, some prick telling them that they can't say those words or think those thoughts, you know, kinda like the Act Man here, and this Synth Potato dude as well, well maybe then these people would not feel so ostracized. Maybe then they wouldn't have felt like they needed to go out there looking for someone else that understood them, that heard them out, and that represented their perfectly reasonable opinions of not wanting this ideological influence in the games. And then that way maybe they wouldn't have found their way to channels like Andy Pants or John De La Rose, because they'd have a good moderate channel, one with a big fat reach to boot, which is what happens with channels like these that already had millions of views from before the culture war started, you know, like Actman and the cowboy guy from the other day, listening to them and speaking facts that don't only resonate with their own thoughts, but that would hopefully even advocate for moderation in the broader scope, to bare their teeth only when it's required, to merely question or urge caution when a case is not so serious, or to leave a game entirely alone when there's no problem at all to be found, kind of like Sungrand Studios. Or at the very least, if not all of that, like you don't have to be the Jesus of video game discourse of course, but then at least to just talk about the damn issues, to be a positive voice for change in this fucking industry, instead of just throwing more fuel into the fire by dismissing everyone who isn't bending over for every new corporate product, calling them all delusional or grifters or ists and phobes for merely acknowledging reality. Wake up, you want this discourse to be gone, address the actual issue. Hell, perfect moment for me to reuse the meme clip from my video on this matter last year.
Fuck you and fucking Facebook. Fuck you and social media. It's all about you, you dumb motherfucker. Get up, grab your balls, hug your wife, kiss the kid, pick up the fucking dog. Stop it. Stop it. It's not all Obama's fault. You don't want Ebola? Take your vitamin C, you dumb motherfucker. You don't want ISIS to fuck with you? Stay in New Jersey.
You don't want ideologues fucking with your entertainment medium and bringing unhinged politics into the space, then call the actual shit out.
But stop your fucking crying. You're a fucking American, you fucking douchebag. Start acting like it.
Sadly, the Actman carries on doing the same thing, misplacing blame and shaming people for speaking against it, and as more time goes by, it just looks even more embarrassing for him, and blatant as well. We are at a point of maximum delusion where people like this will deadass come out and say that there is nothing wrong with the industry at all when it comes to this whole thing involving politics and agendas, or that word that they hate so much, wokeness.
Cowboy, they made the games woke. No. They didn't. We had this shit all the way back in the day. You had gay relationships in Mass Effect. You could choose your gender in RPGs as long as games have been around, bro. Like, this isn't new. It's not some secret fucking agenda that people are pushing out there.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
Just fucking slipped his mind.
But in his specific case, he knows, he saw it for himself, he acknowledged it, in the heat of the moment he expressed his actual genuine opinion about it, of it being disgusting. But then he got ratioed and exposed by the guy that he blatantly attacked the previous year for merely voicing his disgust for the same exact thing, only louder and clearer. And now he hides away from the topic, swaying out every now and then, complaining of the mean grifters on Twitter and all of the other losers who played to their tune. At least these losers didn't fucking sell out and speak their mind about this stuff, which is more than I can say about him. But hey, I understand. YouTube is a bitch of a job if you don't stay politically correct to maintain your sponsors. In further replies, Synth Potato also hilariously claims that recently, through posting about Assassin's Creed Shadows, he has come to the realization that this whole community is composed of about 300 people who are super loud and reply to everything. Quite literally no more than that.
What are you, fucking stupid?
And if you're listening to that and wondering, well, how the hell do 300 odd people have the power to flunk entire games? Like, if this entire movement is composed of 300 odd morons who post about this stuff, who make videos, and there's no validity at all to what they're saying, no facts, no sense, no nothing, then how is it that these terrible games are getting dunked on instead of supported, or at least hanging on by a thread? Well, Synth Potato has an answer for that too, which is that we are genuinely delusional if we think that studios are closing because woke is bad, and not because of actual real reasons like overhiring during the lockdown. This was years ago, by the way. Live services not working out and games being released in broken states. I would love for Potato Man over here to let us know into which of these brackets does Veilguard fit into, for example. A game made by BioWare with normal hiring as far as we know, since even the media reported that after the layoffs, the studio was left with a skeleton crew. And also, as an aside, I would love to know what he thinks about the 7 DEI departments at Ubisoft, for example, and if perhaps the overhiring isn't just because of some lockdown bullshit, but because of something else, something useless, something that doesn't contribute anything at all to the company, but that has to be there anyway because of arbitrary policies. But anyway, back to Veilguard. It's also a game that is neither a live service nor a game affected by a broken launch. In fact, Veilguard came out pretty well polished. As far as technical issues went, this was not a big issue with this game at all. In truth, this is just more of that broken-ass mindset of looking at a huge flop and going, it's just because the game itself was bad, instead of asking why the game was bad in the first place. Like, no shit the game was bad. Why are we stopping there? We never stopped here. For years, video game criticism seeked to look deeper. Anthem flopped. It was a bad game. Of course it was a bad game. Now, let's seek to understand why, and we did, which could basically be broken down to BioWare having absolutely no idea how to make a live service looter shooter to compete with Destiny, but going ahead and doing it anyway because, well, who knows, maybe it was EA influence, maybe it was BioWare themselves losing their minds and really wanting to do that. Whatever the reason was, it wasn't worth it. Fallout 76, the same thing, another huge flop. Why was it a flop? Well, the game was bad. Okay, why was the game bad? Did we not look into it? Did we not have loads of analysis talking about why it sucked, what it missed, all the other issues within? Of course we did. Why is it only now that we see a game failing and we have to stop at, oh, the game is bad? We cannot ask why. We can't look deeper. Why is it that way? Could it be because we don't like the answers that we'll find within? Because they make us uncomfortable in some way, shape, or form? Well, I refuse to play that game. All of this is just more bullshit from people lying to themselves. The facts are staring you right in the face. Does every flop come as a result of these ideologies? Of course not. For example, Soy Squad. Even without the cringy Sweet Baby Inc. involvement that utterly disrespected the heroes and threw away Kevin Conroy's last appearance as Batman into the fucking trash, this game would have still failed because nobody was interested in a live service Arkham game from Rocksteady. What people wanted from them was the same that they had proven themselves to be good at doing. But if you are completely discounting in-studio and in-publisher politics having a hand in this, you're wrong. And if you are attributing zero impact to a total mischaracterization and dogshit millennial writing for the characters and the story, then you are wrong as well. If you don't think Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement was glaringly obvious in so many cringy scenes and dialogues, you are wrong. And lastly, live services are a really stupid thing to bet on, but it's not like there isn't a market for it. Marvel Rivals shows that, for example, the problem with Concord wasn't merely that it was a live service, it's that it was a piece of garbage with some really weird people setting an environment inside the studio where criticism was hostile, so everyone in it was just jerking each other off, believing that they were making the banger of the year, the next big thing for PlayStation, and then it flopped so hard that they couldn't even find a motive to keep it alive beyond 2 weeks. Is the wokeness as overt and detectable of a reason here as it is in Veilguard? Granted, it is not. There are a lot more issues here at hand, but it is significant enough that it made people not even want to try this garbage out when it was only $40. Because right off the get-go, the character designs were more focused on body positivity, quirky bullshit, trans representation, and made-up pronouns in the bio than actually appealing designs that players would be attracted by. And we don't even have to talk about Dustborn, do we? So again, good luck getting rid of this discourse, and good luck ostracizing people when you can't even address reality. As to the ratio situation, guys, I'm gonna be real quick and real with you here. I don't care.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Jerry.
I think ratioing Elon Musk and Grums is one of the easiest things that anyone can do online. These are two very public figures. Actually, one of them isn't just very public, he's the owner of the goddamn website, and they both have huge glaring flaws that will forever haunt them. Grums has that unreleased game that will always come up whenever he's talking about games. This actually happens so frequently that sometimes I'm just browsing and I see Grums post one of those "Which way, Western gamer?" with a picture of a pretty Eastern character on the left and a picture of a ugly character on the right, and on the comments will be some random person going, "Your game doesn't even have a fucking character." So yeah. And these tweets got a lot of traction just there alone, so imagine if a public figure does it as well, or in this case a company. Of course it's going to cause a ratio. You know, it is what it is. And in the case of Elon Musk, it's even worse because this is a dude who decided to pretend to be a pro gamer in Path of Exile 2 with like this ultra build, and then he goes live on television while his account is actively grinding levels. It's obviously embarrassing, it's cringe even. Even random non-gamer people online are ragging on it. Like, I don't know if you guys follow comedians, but I do. And Shane Gillis even made a joke about it on his podcast. Like, it's a huge L that anytime Elon steps into the gaming discourse, he's going to have to put up with it. It just is what it is. So the jabs by whoever is running that Assassin's Creed account were good. It's simply that they're also irrelevant. This doesn't change the fact that Ubisoft did partner up with a moron that glazes terrorists, plays propaganda on his streams, advocates for violence against government officials, and even glorifies 9/11. It doesn't change the fact that if any other gaming company partnered up officially with Asmongold, for example, someone who hasn't even done a fraction of the shit that Hassan does on a monthly basis, they would get lambasted in public until they lost some investors or some partnerships or got barred from the Game Awards or something, and of course 100% cancelled that partnership with Asmongold right away. Like, if this happened, you would have Greg Miller sawing out about it online until something happened, and then he'd do it again next year in the gaming equivalent of the Golden Globes. Thankfully though, Asmongold is actually someone who plays video games instead of just leaving his stream running while he takes a shit for 6 hours, so basically they would get their money's worth either way. And it also doesn't change the fact that Ubisoft is misleading people by reporting on players and activations instead of actual sales numbers, and they're doing it with the game's media too, because of course, here's PC Gamer equating Shadow's 2 million players with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's 2 million sales. Except in KCD's case, it's actual sales at full price. That generates money. Shadow's, on the other hand, is 2 million players, now 3, so amongst some actual sales there are unequivocally very few, otherwise Ubisoft would be proudly announcing them just like Warhorse did back in February. There are a bunch of people merely trying the game out for free through Ubisoft Connect. Well, for free, I say for free for those who had the subscription, and for those who didn't, it's just $18. So now think of the numbers in that sense. They just announced that they reached 3 million players today. Does 3 million players really sound like a good number when you're selling access to your game, a major AAA release, for one of the biggest franchises in the world for a mere $18? Because to me that doesn't sound good at all, not optically nor financially. Also, they announced that the game has been played for 40 million hours, so if we divide these 40 million hours between these 3 million players, we get an average playtime of about 13 hours, which actually sounds about right for how long it'll take for an average person to burn themselves out on this live service style of open world design and move on to literally anything else. Monster Hunter Wilds, First Berserker Kazan, Atomfall, Rise of the Ronin, or whatever else, even something else within Ubisoft Connect, rather than committing to a playthrough, which may be a bit controversial for me to say, but I actually recommend people do this if they are at all interested, because as I said before in other videos, I can understand people having an allure to this game because of how good it looks graphically, and so the best way for people to understand just how low quality and mediocre it is, how it falls short of even their previous main titles like Valhalla, is by trying it out and feeling that dullness setting in for yourselves without having to buy the game full price. And lastly, it also doesn't change the fact that Ubisoft Ubisoft just had to cut off a big chunk of itself and sell it to Tencent in order to keep itself alive for the next few years, while Tencent will undoubtedly keep vying to own even more of this company as time goes by. This company is cooked, and they really have no one else to thank for except for Yves Guillemot and his cabal of incompetent higher-ups who decided to dedicate the entire last decade to streamline their products into slop. One sloppier title after the last, little by little. In fact, I would say that the poor performance of Shadows only went on to impact how much of a chunk of themselves they had to cut off in order to make this deal with Tencent, and no amount of ratios on the internet is going to change that. That's about it from me here tonight though. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, dislike it if you didn't. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys on the next video. Take care.